All right, calling the meeting of the Judiciary Personnel and Licensing Committee to order. The time is 6:46 p.m. Trustee Moore Baldoff is absent right now, excused. We have Trustee Ursink and myself present. We have one item on the agenda. Consider the temporary Class B license and permit for Shorewood Junior Greyhounds Baseball Club, May 24th to 26th of this year. Did you have anything to? Did you want to add?
So just full transparency, I'm listed as an employee of this.
Okay.
I coach for the baseball team for the Hounds. I worked at the event last year. When I say I worked, I saw volunteer stuff. I run the concession stand at Specter Field.
Yep.
So last year was the first time we were permitted to sell beer at Specter, and it actually turned out to be like a really wonderful day. It was like just a fantastic day outside, but like we had so many people from so many different communities coming into Shorewood, enjoying Shorewood, and just like remarking on like how great this event was and how much fun they were having. And it wasn't just the beer, but the beer helped.
The beer helps.
But no, it was just a fantastic event. We really had zero issues with anything, and people were very responsible, and everybody had a really sort of great day. I don't know what's best for me to proceed. Like, I don't financially benefit from this at all. It's all volunteer organizations. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any issue with that. I mean,
without Melissa here, I'll probably vote for it just because.
Yeah, and I think as a volunteer in the community, I mean, you volunteer here, you volunteer there, you volunteer a lot of different places. I mean, there's no real conflict of interest with volunteering. What's the worst thing that can happen is you don't have to work for free somewhere. But so I'll make the motion because I think this is a great thing, and I'm happy to send this to the full board. So I move to recommend the temporary Class B license and the Park and Beach permit for Shorewood Junior Greyhounds Baseball Club, May 24th to the 26th, 2024, to the full board for approval consideration.
And I'll second that.
So all in favor, and I think the motion carries 2-0. Tough one. Oof. Tough one. Yeah.
Anything else we can talk about?
So I mean, that's it on the agenda.
All right.
For JP. I don't think there's any future items of consideration space in the committee, but I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, so we adjourn at 6:49 p.m.
All right, thank you, Toya. Welcome everybody to tonight's Public Works meeting. We have one item on the agenda. Has this meeting been publicly noted?
The meeting has been properly noticed and posted according to law.
And present we have Trustee Jerry Lynn, Trustee Baldoff has been excused, and then myself. We also have Dan from DPW to answer any questions. The item on our agenda this evening comes to us from a resident, and it is a request of a stop sign at Prospect and Stratford. Stratford. God. I know. Sorry, guys. I know you guys have been through so much, and here I don't even kind of a Northwest guy, but so Dan, we kind of briefly chatted about this, but I'd love to kind of, if there's anything that sticks out of note to you on this particular topic.
Other than the use of yield signs that are there.
Yep.
PD hasn't noted any sort of real accidents that have been there over the past, I think they went back 5 years, other than the one that was here in January. Sorry.
I don't think
Is mine even on?
there we go.
Okay.
You got to get right.
With the construction for the past 2 years, we put stop signs out on Prospect, and that seems to have helped, and especially during the construction. The yield signs that are there, it's kind of weird because I have the stop signs out there for the construction. But having said that, there have been no real accidents in the past 5 years other than the one that is in January. I have no issue putting stop signs there
Okay.
whatsoever and making it a four-way stop.
So would you, okay, so yeah, that was gonna be my question, was a four-way stop or just remove the yield signs and have a two-way?
I mean, that's kind of up to, I can make a compromise and change the yields to stops. And we can readdress it later if we want to. Since the yield signs are actually kind of far back in the parkway, they're not actually all the way up to the crosswalks like how they are in most. They're actually not up towards the front of the intersection. They're
Sure.
actually probably back, I'd say 20, 25 feet based on how that crosswalk works. Because when the road was reconstructed, there is actually manholes in those corners. So we couldn't put the crosswalks right there. So they're actually back
Set
farther.
back a little
They're
bit.
set back farther. So that might be some of the issue that people have when they're coming up to the yield sign. They're actually going way past that yield sign
Up to the corner,
up to the corner.
sure.
And then by that point, they already see there's no cars and then they just go.
Hmm.
And then if they don't see somebody, it might happen.
But we could put us, if you did a stop sign, would that be right up at the corner?
No,
It
I
would
could,
have to be
it would be
on
in the
that.
exact location that the yield signs are in, which probably makes a better case for a four-way stop.
Yeah,
A four-way stop.
So we do have Miss Seidman in the audience today. Would you like to speak on this at all? If you could just get up to the microphone and state your name and your address.
My last name is Armour Seidman, and I don't use a title. I'm Susan Armour Seidman, 2412 East Stratford.
Mhm.
Some of my neighbors are here. We have seen a lot of traffic, even pre-Downer construction. There's a lot of foot traffic at this intersection as well. Small children, a lot of small children in the neighborhood, and a lot of foot traffic of people going to the university. There was a fatal accident at this intersection many years back. And we're just concerned about public safety and particularly of the young people in the neighborhood. And we think that at least a permanent stop sign on at the Prospect north-south. I would prefer a four-way stop. Stratford obviously gets less traffic than Prospect, but whatever you decide, the Prospect intersection needs permanent stop signs. The temporary ones that you have there keep blowing down anyway. So that's not real helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would any other residents like to speak on this matter?
I'm Kelly Gautier, and I am one of Susan's neighbors. I live at 2400 East Stratford Court, so right at the intersection of Stratford and Prospect. And my home office, I work virtually, is literally on that corner overlooking it every day. So I do spend a lot of time observing the intersection, probably like unhelpfully so, but I can definitely attest, we really appreciate the temporary stop signs that you put up during construction because it definitely changed the traffic flow in the neighborhood. But it's just an intersection that's not really like any other intersection in Shorewood because of its proximity to UWM and the number of students that park there and the variation that we get in traffic flow throughout the year. And then there were people who now like either ride bicycles on Edgewood or, you know, the amount of walking. We have a lot of young children that live in the neighborhood. I have 3 young children. It's a real struggle right there. People try to speed up either like going to Edgewood or kind of the other way too. And, you know, Susan had mentioned there was a fatal accident there. There's only been 3 fatal accidents in Shorewood in the last 25 years. And one was at that intersection and the other 2 were on Capitol Drive. So I just feel like there's a really strong case to be made. And that once we took down those temporary stop signs, pretty much within a couple of weeks, we had an accident. Like that it's sort of the case that makes itself for safety. And we really want it to be a walkable neighborhood where we feel safe for not just the children, but there's actually a lot of elderly folk that live in our neighborhood too. So We really appreciate your support and consideration of this. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
My name is Ken Zemlicka, 3537 North Prospect. The temporary signs that are up there now are nice, but I don't think they have the effect that a permanent one would. Because like I was telling Jerry, when we had some winds going, when it was windy, they blew over, so they weren't really working at that time. We had to go out and set them up. And there is a lot of students that still park on that area. I'm living right on the corner there on Prospect and Stratford Court. There's a lot of students there that park in that. And I know the police are busy, so I'm not blaming them, but there sometimes seems to be a lack of them checking along there, which impacts kids get away with it once or twice. They say, well, they don't come over here, so we're gonna, come through there. And when we did have an accident here about a month ago on that corner, shortly, just before they put up the permanent signs there or the temporary signs. And what happened was a student had gone through, going east and west or the yield signs. Well, a student went right through the yield sign, and there was one of the residents was coming, which had the right of way, and she hit him right in through the side like that.
Hmm.
So that was shortly after that, they had a police squad car down the road, which was watching the traffic going through there. And then about a week after they had looked at it, they must have mentioned it to somebody, because all of a sudden they put up the temporary signs. So I just think, there's a lot going on in there, especially with Downer Avenue. We got dump trucks going through there every day because they're going over to Downer. They're coming down on our corner on Stratford Court, then they turn east to go on Downer, and they don't stop for the stop signs. And they got their big backhoes, their diggers coming around there, going from one street to the next street. They're not stopping either. So you just listen and just hope that you don't hear any noise or anything.
Hmm.
Thank you for listening.
No, thank you.
Hello, my name is Janine Calderon. I moved to Stratford Court when I was 10 years old. My 92-year-old dad still lives there, and my husband and I just bought a house on Stratford Court next door to Kelly, and I have a 7-year-old daughter who likes to ride her bike. And I've grown up on that street. I've seen the traffic from UWM. The parking has only grown over the years, and I think seeing around the corners, I just want to back up everything that my neighbors are saying. That is true. There's a lot of traffic there. There's also a lot of pedestrian traffic, and I do see a lot of kind of younger college kids all my life that have just sort of blown through those streets. I do remember when that accident happened, it was very upsetting to my mother and all of the residents on Stratford. So I'm just here to support that motion to put a permanent stop sign.
Could you state your actual address?
My address is
Thank you.
2404 East Stratford Court, and grew up on 2421 East Stratford Court. So
Thank you. Thank you. Just for the.
Well, welcome back to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Let's see, anybody else? Is anybody else from the public that would like to speak on this topic? Okay.
Lillian Zemlicka, 3537 North Prospect. So I live right on the corner of Prospect and Stratford, the northwest corner. I saw the fatal accident happen, and at that time we had low yield signs on Stratford and no stop signs, of course, on Prospect. And it was so sad because the young man that was killed was coming on his motorcycle down Prospect, and the person that hit him was in a large truck, one of the trucks that take care of lawns. And that at that time, the yield signs were low, and SUVs had just become popular. So I don't think he even saw that yields. So anyway, that's how that happened. And I just thought I would put that.
Thank you. Yes.
So Kelly Gautier, 2400 East Stratford Court. This afternoon, I did put up just a very brief petition on change.org to get neighborhood support. And within a couple of hours, we'd had 21 people sign it from the neighborhood. So I just wanted to mention that there's strong neighborhood support for it. And we do appreciate you considering those voices. Thank you.
If there's nobody else here in the audience that would like to speak, we have somebody virtually. Hello, Sandy.
Good evening, Sandy Pendleton, 3529 North Frederick Avenue. And I also currently serve as the chair of the village's pedestrian and bicycle safety committee. I too share the others speakers' concerns about pedestrian safety in Shorewood. On a more village-wide level, I hope everybody who's here tonight also becomes involved in the process the village is currently going through to update the 2015 pedestrian and bicycle master plan. There's a lot in there that relates to increasing pedestrian safety, increasing bicycle safety, traffic calming, and it really needs to be a village-wide thing. It can't just be an intersection by intersection thing, because a certain culture, a certain habit of driving arises, and it carries over to all of our village streets. If people are driving recklessly on Capitol, on Oakland, on Edgewood, they're also going to be driving too fast and not being courteous and attentive to pedestrians, kids, people on bikes, on intersections and roads like Stratford Prospect. So it takes a village on this. In terms of four-way stop signs, in general, urban planners and street designers are moving away from stop signs as an effective way to really do traffic calming and improve pedestrian safety. I just add this comment in general. It's not meaning this shouldn't be a four-way stop sign at this intersection. But I think we should be moving in the village more towards things like curb extensions. So when pedestrians are in the street, they have a much shorter distance when they're in traffic lanes, and it slows traffic down as they come to those narrows created by curb extensions. We should also be, instead of having four-way stop signs at every intersection in Shorewood, we should be going to things like mini traffic circles, or making the pedestrian crosswalk at an intersection not be something that's reached by going down to a ramp, but the sidewalk is kept at the same level. So the pedestrian walks across at the same level. And it's the cars, when they come to that raised pedestrian crosswalk, who are incentivized to slow down. So those are my general comments. Again, I encourage people to get involved in the larger pictures, the larger issues on these pedestrian and bicycle safety issues in the village. Thanks.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy. Right, do we have one more virtual speaker, AD? Please unmute yourself and state your name and address. If you have your hand raised, feel free to speak.
It looks like you're still on mute. You can unmute.
You can always, if you can't unmute, you can always write in the chat if there is one available for this, or else email us trustees and we'll make sure that your comment is heard and put into the notes. Okay, well, I'm gonna move on. If you get it to work, feel free to jump in and interrupt us while we're conversing about what to do about these stop signs. Here we go.
Oh, there's a comment.
All right, so every east-west street that crosses. Instead of watching this chat,
Yeah.
can we deliberate a little bit
Yeah,
here and
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about?
yeah.
And we'll get back to this. Thank you. So Jerry, after hearing a residents, do you have any further thoughts on the matter before?
I do. I think there's a couple things to keep in mind here. You know, I think this is part of our larger mission to reduce traffic in the village, to slow traffic down, to make it more pedestrian and bicycle friendly, to make it safer. And that really comes down to, like Sandy said, some of these big things that we're working on. You know, which can only be done through reconstructions and things like that, like bump outs and raised crosswalks. You know, those are construction projects. And as you know, in that area, there's been a lot there lately. So, you know, with that in mind, kind of also similar to what Sandy said, you know, we don't typically like to just slap stop signs on every corner, because, you know, a stop sign on every corner is basically no stop signs on any corner, right? You know, if there's a stop sign everywhere. But I think that there are situations where, like, the nature of the area is really unique. You know, we also about a year ago ended up putting a four-way stop on Maryland and Menlo. It's an odd intersection. Maybe wasn't the best for a four-way stop, but I think just given the nature of the area, it just kind of, that was the best we could do at the time. And I think that's a similar situation here with Prospect and Stratford. It doesn't look like it'd be an area that has a lot of fast traffic, because just it's tucked into that little enclave. But given how many people are trying to find parking spaces in that area, I think, and I mean, you can probably attest to this, I'm sure people are just, you know, they don't find a spot on one street, so they just whip around the corner looking for another spot. And it's a really busy area. I mean, I went to college at UWM, and I am there getting a graduate degree now, so I'm in that area somewhat regularly, and it's really busy. I would be in favor of a four-way stop there. I think at a minimum, a two-way stop on Prospect. If for some reason a four-way doesn't make sense, I think that at a minimum, but I would personally be in favor of a four-way stop at that intersection.
Thanks, Jerry. You know, I really appreciate the comments by Mr. Pendleton and what he's doing with the master plan. I think your words are, you know, there's a lot of weight there. You know, I think as trustees, we're tasked with thinking 10, 5, 10, 20 years down the line. And sometimes, you know, our decisions, you know, are hard to day by day, where the residents are more concerned with day to day. We're thinking big picture. We're thinking 10, 20 years. With that said, I'm extremely sensitive to this area, and you know, because of what everybody has gone through for the past 2 years with the construction, and now the construction on Downer, I can see this being just a thoroughfare for people that get up to Downer, can't make it. They turn left and they turn right down Prospect, and I can see this as, you know, it's, you know, I'm sympathetic to the residents that live over there, and you know, and I appreciate your patience through all this, through all the construction. I would be in favor, you know, I think I'd probably lean. I could see a four-way stop sign, but I think, you know, logistically, and it's just a two-way stop sign on Prospect makes to me the most amount of sense, just from a logical sort of perspective. And once we get these stop signs in, you can't get them out. I mean, I don't want to turn back to the residents and ask, you know, your opinions on this. I don't know if that's the dialogue we want, but I mean, I could go either way. I see the two-way stop being a little bit just, I don't know, more reasonable. I don't know how much traffic is on Stratford back and forth. So, but I'm very sympathetic to everybody that lives over there, and I would be open to a four-way stop. I'm not quite sure we need a four-way stop over there. I think a two-way stop would really help and do the trick. But yeah,
I think, I mean, you know, this is not settled here today. It's still got to go to the full board. So all 7 are going to have to vote on it. But I think, you know, I mean, at a minimum, we're going to send this to the full board.
Mhm.
And I think if we can if we could ask DPW just to, in the next couple of weeks before the meeting comes up, just maybe take another second look at it just to see what you think and give another recommendation on the 2 versus 4. But I think we'll just recommend I would be in favor of recommending a 4-way stop to the full board. And then if other people want to pare it down to 2, that's fine. But I think at this point, I think, the poles are already there for the yield signs on the other side.
Right.
I don't see, I think we could just do it and
Yeah.
and see. So.
And, based on this, I mean, I want to keep the dialogue open based on a 2 versus 4. To the residents, do you have a strong opinion, 2 versus 4? And if it was 2 on Prospect, do you think that would solve?
Or if you want to think about it for 2 weeks, it's going to come back. So.
Yeah, we're not making final decisions
Yeah,
tonight,
yeah.
but we're going to move this to the full board with a recommendation. And we're both open to 2 versus 4. And, yeah.
Susan, Kelly Gautier, 2400 East Stratford Court again. I agree with Susan. I would say I would love to have that intersection be a pilot site for some of what Sandy described. I think we'd be a great candidate in the future for bump outs and for raised sidewalks, especially with the proximity DWM. I know there's a lot more like high traffic sites, but if you wanted to try something out in a site that isn't as high traffic, but is weird and unusual and then like kind of frightening sometime, we'd be down for it. I think in the near term, a 4-way stop is just sort of required because it's been so confusing and weird there. And with changes of having yields and then having temporary stop signs. And I feel like we have to kind of go to something that is familiar enough to we have habituated residents, but then the college students that come in, they don't really know the bag and they kind of do different things. And I just feel like that would be the safest thing for now until we'd had the chance to do something that's actually proven to be more effective in the long term, like Sandy has described. So that'd be where I'd come from. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Janine Calderon, 2404 East Stratford Court. I also agree with Kelly. I think that in the meantime, until we get some experimental traffic mitigation like that gentleman described, I think that the 4-way stop would be the safest and I think it would be a perfect corner for those raised walks he didn't mention speed bumps, but I also think that, something just to slow people down because I feel like we are a border street from Milwaukee. And I do think that, there's not really any signs or landmarks that would really, for somebody that's new to that area, would know that they're in a different municipality and that we're more of a residential, slower pedestrian area. So I do think that some sort of, experimental walkway or something down the road would be an excellent corner for that. But in the meantime, while the construction is going on, I actually feel like the 4-way stop just in the short term would be the best. Thank you.
Trustee Ursink, we do have some comments in the chat.
Yeah, I saw something popping up behind your head where Mr. Pendleton was talking about funds that are available for sort of a pilot project potentially. And, if that's the case and that's something that we can do sooner than later, I'd like to, I think where I'm coming from is I'd like to see a bigger vision. It's easy to put stop signs everywhere and just say, hey, there's stop signs. But I think the community needs to think more holistically about our roads, about the, the side streets and our main streets. And we need to come up with a bigger master plan and a bigger vision for that. And stop signs here and there, that's fine. But I think we've got to think bigger. And that's what Sandy here is currently doing. And while I'm all for putting if that is what the residents in that neighborhood want, I'm with you. We'll put 4 stop signs out there. We'll try to push that forward. But at the same time, once those stop signs are in the ground, it's really hard to get stop signs out. Not like physically, but like philosophically, it's just hard to say, we're taking your stop signs out now. So I'm not saying that that's going to sort of impede any sort of work that we would do in that intersection. But I'm just trying to, I think what we can do now is move forward with stop signs
Mhm.
and gives us some time to speak to Mr. Pendleton about funds that may be available, some bigger sort of ideas. And then at our next meeting, we can kind of go into it a little bit more. But for the sake of time, I think Jerry and I both support stop signs. And we'd be open to looking at a more robust sort of plan for pedestrian safety in that area. Yes, sir.
We only got a couple of minutes.
Ken Zemlik, 3537 North Prospect. Can you recommend to the police department, you can recommend things for them to do, correct?
Yes.
Sorry.
I mean, good point.
I mean, we can make
To some degree,
suggestions.
If
yeah.
it makes sense.
Yes.
But I mean, yeah, because coming from Edgewood, heading north, Prospect, well, we got school buses coming through there now, 2 in the mornings, and it's hard for them to stop at a sign and,
Mhm.
or rather them go on Maryland maybe, but anyhow, once they get through our stop sign, the temporary ones that are there, they shoot through there or they stop real quick and go. And then, you can look down the street and you can see them on Menlo. There's another stop sign there. And that one, they just about blow right through it.
Mhm.
Maybe
Jeeps.
have someone from the police department maybe just kind of observe that a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm also sympathetic. I live by Olive. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Triangle Park. We've got a little park over there. We stand outside all the time, and I can count at least 5 cars that blow stop signs every single day. So, we can put these stop signs up, but it takes the driver to actually.
That's
Stop.
my corner as well. Yeah.
So we do
so
only have
I'll-
like a
I'll
2-minute
make a motion.
Yep.
I move to recommend to the full board for consideration a 4-way stop sign at East Stratford Court and North Prospect Avenue.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you have it. So that will be pushed to, which 5, 6? Yep, May 6th. This will be on the agenda on May 6th for the full board. So keep an eye out for those, the agendas that come through. And thank you everybody for coming out there. I mean,
Yeah,
we
thank
really
you.
appreciate seeing the faces and hearing the voices. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Adjourn or? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
There's the snacks that are available are down there on your level. You can just grab anything.
Talking to us or?
I think just, okay. Strategic Initiative Committee to order, calling to order the Strategic Initiatives Committee at 7:15 PM. Consider 2025 future utilization of lower level village center initiative. I think this is kind of what we talked about a couple weeks ago. Oh, I'm sorry, at 7:30, calling to the Strategic Initiatives Committee to order. Trustee Baldoff is absent and excused. This is that recommendation regarding the Senior Resource Center from 2 weeks ago. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I don't have any opposition to it. I don't know if there's
No.
anyone in the public or on the,
We do. The Senior Resource Center, somebody is here from the Senior Resource Center. Virtually? Is there
some, oh, yeah, there it is. I see it. Yes.
I'm just here listening in. There's no action expected.
Okay, did you have, I was just gonna say, did you have anything to add?
Not at this time.
Okay,
So
the recommended motion is to send it to the full board in June. I mean, I think it seemed, I had nothing, I don't.
yeah, that's, I move to recommend the Historic Preservation Initiative for 2025 to the village board.
Wrong motion. Page 15. I think you're one down.
The other room.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
one
that's
down on
yours.
that one.
Is that going through? Did you? Good. Okay. My bad. Oh, is this, okay. So I move to recommend 2025 future utilization of village center lower level. to the village board for consideration in June.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 2-0. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, we are adjourned at 7:32 PM.